Yeah. Fratelloni's Hardware and Garden Stores brings your Garage Logic podcast number 1334. Where is June gone? She's just whipped by. June 26th already.
Yeah.
99 degrees on this day in 1931 and 46 degrees on this day in 1926. The swimming season is here.
Oh, yeah.
And you've got to get a hold of Aquaside because you'll be great the whole rest of the summer. It's a long summer. Aquaside, a White Bear Lake company, has maintained Great Lake shores for more than 60 years. Their products are easy to use. They work quickly. They get rid of the weeds, the algae, the gunk. They're registered with the EPA and DNR. There's no need to let weeds overtake your lake or pond this summer. Call Aquaside today. They'll help you identify your weed problem. Your place is going to look great all summer long. Call Aquaside at 1-800-328-9350 or go to aquaside.com.
Hail the flashlight king.
And now, from the mayor's office above the boathouse on the east shore of Spoon Lake, it's Garage Logic with Chris Reavers manning Technology Corner, Kenny Olson from the Krabby Coffee Shop, John Heidt in the newsroom, and of course, the rookie. Here is your flashlight king, fireworks commissioner, and the keeper of common sense, your mayor, Joe Souchere.
I'm getting mansplained by Eric Antonson. I've said that the flight time from Edmonton to Miami, when I looked it up, was 7 hours and 41 minutes.
Yeah.
And he wants to throw in the time change, which is only 2-hour time change between Edmonton and Miami. And he said the flight time is about 5.5 hours. I can't... I tried to verify that. In many sites, he's right. It comes up as 5 hours and 38 minutes. But I have nowhere to go with this except 7 hours and 41 minutes seems more plausible to me. Yes?
That might be true in terms of the actual time. However, the distance of the flight is 7.5 hours. In other words, you're going to either subtract or add 2 hours. It's the same thing if you were to fly from here to San Diego. You're going to gain an hour because you're flying, or gaining 2 hours because you're flying to the West Coast.
Here's the dummy's secret. When I go on a road trip and I'm crossing time zones, I'm always, no matter where I'm at, on Central Time.
Yep.
That's the only
easier
way I
that
can
way.
cope.
Well, then maybe we can agree on this. It's a long flight.
Yeah, it is.
All right. I'm not going to worry about it anymore.
So, in other words, when you fly from Miami to Edmonton, if you left at noon, when you land, it's 5:30, but it still was a 7.5 hour flight.
No, it was a 5 hour and 38 minute flight, but you tack on the time change differential.
No, the flight was still 7.5. But you gained back 2 hours because you traveled across two different time zones. We're all going to get stabbed in the heart with a pencil.
Anyway.
Of all tyrannies, a tyranny sincerely exercised for the good of its victims may be the most oppressive. It would be better to live under robber barons than under omnipotent moral busybodies. The robber baron's cruelty may sometimes sleep. His cupidity may at some point be satiated. But those who torment us for our own good will torment us without end, for they do so with the approval of their own conscience. I can't remember who said that, but that's what we're undergoing here, not only in the country, but in the state of Minnesota. They are tyrannical. They certainly don't think of themselves that way, but it's a tyranny exercised for the good of us. And we'd be better off under robber barons. So I thought I'd just state that too.
Who'd you say came up with that?
I can't remember whose quote that was.
Oh,
But you could find
I'm
it
gonna
if
look
I
it
had
up.
a staff that
No, I'm going to do it right now.
didn't
Robber
scratch their ears.
bears.
Blame us for something we just heard for the first time for not
Of all
knowing.
tyrannies,
Thank you.
Go ahead and blame
of
me.
all tyrannies, a tyranny.
C.S. Lewis.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
John, can you look that up or are you checked out?
I like C.S. Lewis.
I
And
can't find it.
Willard has a great point. At what point do we stop calling Alpha News, Sahan Journal, the Reformer et al. Alternative media? They seem to be covering news stories that are of interest to us, mainstream America, especially in light of what I call the ambient information purveyors, having abdicated any semblance of coverage of local and regional politics. What we view as mainstream media could, in some cases, be referred to as party news. The Star Tribune is an arm of state politics, linked directly, by the way, to the publisher and the Wall's office. The Pioneer Press is a shadow of its former self. Local TV news is just weather, sports, and the occasional feel-good story about a sick child. It's ambient information. The alternatives have or are becoming the mainstream. I think that's a great point.
It is.
I'm now just as routinely turning to the so-called alternatives as I do to the so-called mainstream.
Right.
And oftentimes, those sites are the ones that have important information first.
Well, for example, didn't we, this is from Alpha.
No, the thing I printed out for you is from the Sahan
Oh,
Journal.
this is from Sahan Journal.
Who broke the story in the first place, by the way.
Feds charge 5 people in bribery attempt during the Feeding Our Future trial. Allegations of jury tampering rocked the 6-week trial and led the judge to dismiss 2 jurors and sequester the jury for the rest of the trial. Here we go. The U.S. Attorney's Office today, I believe this is, Chris, Wednesday.
Yep.
The U.S. Attorney's Office today charged 5 people, including one acquitted Feeding Our Future defendant in the attempt to bribe a juror in the trial.
So hold up.
Wait a minute.
Homeboy already got off on the
One of the
original
people
charges.
you've acquitted, 3 of the 7 defendants who just finished trial, along with 2 people not previously charged, are all charged with conspiracy to bribe a juror, bribery of a juror, and corruptly influencing a juror. They are Abdi Aziz Farah, Abdimajad Noor, Saeed Farah, Abdul Karim Farah, and Layden Ali. Additionally, prosecutors charge Abdi Aziz with obstruction of justice. Jurors convicted Abdi Aziz and Abdimajid earlier this month on several charges, including conspiracy to commit wire fraud, conspiracy to commit money laundering, and other charges. Jurors acquitted Saeed of all 9 charges against him. These defendants engaged in a chilling attack on our justice system. U.S. Attorney Andrew Luger told reporters today while announcing the charges. They sought to buy a juror and use her to infiltrate the jury with their own false arguments that had nothing to do with the evidence or the law. They studied her, followed her, and determined that she would succumb to their scheme. The fact they failed does not lessen the magnitude of what they tried to do. All right. A week before the verdict, a woman showed up at the Spring Lake Park home of a juror and left a bag of $120,000 cash. The woman allegedly told the juror's father-in-law that another bag of money would be waiting for her if she voted not guilty. The juror, a 23-year-old woman, immediately reported the bribery to the local police, who in turn went to the FBI. The bribery attempt sent shockwaves through the trial the following morning. This is outrageous. This is the stuff that happens in mob movies. Assistant U.S. Attorney Joe Thompson said in trial that morning. Let's be honest, it wasn't someone outside of this room, so it was inside the room.
Johnny Heidt and I were monitoring Luger's press conference while you were in the other room, and he pointed this out. And John, correct me if I'm wrong. He said that they specifically targeted this woman because they thought she was young, influential, and a person of color. That is a direct quote from Mr.
Well, I
Look
wonder
here.
if she was Somali.
I don't know the answer to that.
But here,
But he did give her credit for doing the right thing. He said this wouldn't have happened without her doing the right
okay,
thing.
of these names, who's the woman? Abdiaziz Farah. I apologize. I don't know if Abdiaziz is a female name.
I don't know.
Dimajid Noor. I think that's probably a male. Saeed Farah. Yes, John?
Yeah, the first one is a male.
All right.
I'm looking at a picture of him right now, actually.
Abdi is generally short for Abdullahi or always male.
How about Saeed?
Saeed is male.
How about Abdul Karim?
Male.
How about Laden?
I
Ladan.
don't know that one.
Well, let's say it was Laden
Okay.
for the sake of trying to understand this. 1, 2, 3, 4. These are 5 that were acquitted. One of whom, though,
Had access to.
had 120 grand cash,
Just lying around.
sitting in the kitchen
Right.
that she took to a juror's house and said, "There's more where this came from, sweetheart, just to vote to free these
Just
people."
take this Lund's bag or, yeah, right.
That was a Hallmark gift bag.
Or Hallmark gift bag. That's right.
Well, check this out.
Yep. Lay it down. Roll it back.
Check this out.
This is not a movie.
3 of the 7 defendants who just finished trial, along with 2 people not even charged in this trial. So that's 5. 3 of the 7 who just finished and 2 who weren't involved were all charged with conspiracy to bribe a juror. They are Abdiaziz Farah, Abdimajid Noor, Saeed Farah, Abdul Karim Farah, and Laden Ali. All right. Now, for all we know, Laden is the John. Can you add up these? Go ahead.
Laden is the female.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Now, for all we know, we don't know which of these 2 were not involved in this trial. In other words, these were 2 outsiders, buddies of the 3 people who got acquitted.
Process of elimination, we can say that the Saeed was the one who was acquitted in the trial, the original trial.
But 3 of these 5 were acquitted in the trial just concluded.
Correct.
All right. 2 of them were just not yet charged with anything, may never be. 2 of them were just buddies that they happen to know. One of whom, we don't know which of the 5, what we do know was a female.
It was
Laden Ali took 120 grand to try to bribe a juror.
Right.
We
Yes.
don't know if Ali was one of the recently acquitted.
Okay. But she lives in Seattle. And
Yeah.
she flew from
Really?
Seattle
Oh.
in order to make the delivery.
Oh,
Is
yeah.
that considered
That-
a commute then?
I wonder what the time is. I'm
Yeah.
gonna flip.
You can look that
The
up.
Stop it.
then that tells me that she presumably was one of 2 people not involved in this
We
trial.
might assume that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But she happened to come to town. Can you carry 120 grand on a plane?
No. Rook, you can verify
No,
that.
you'll be flagged.
The-
You can even
You'll-
carry
you will
10,
be, you will
right?
be stopped. You can keep up to $10,000, but otherwise it sets off.
Then might
visit.
we presume she flew to town and then went to one of her buddies' houses and got the 120 grand?
Or she drove here.
Yes.
No, it says
Well,
flew.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
The Star Tribune also has the story, and they have
Yeah,
just
it's
a
got-
little bit different information.
Yeah. The 2 people who were not charged were the woman. She wasn't charging the original case, and neither was Abdul Karim Farah.
Okay. And but again, we do know now. One of the 2 not even charged in the case delivered the money.
Mm-hmm.
Ladan or Laden Ali.
Yep.
But again, yesterday, I don't know if you guys agree with me, but I came to the conclusion that this is rare and undeniably fascinating because we have seen fraudsters who are flat out caught doing it. flat out corrupt as hell, never had any intention of feeding a kid. They just went for the dough, right? What I now believe, and I'm terribly comfortable believing it, is that we have no idea how much money is frittered away each year on the ridiculous number of redundant programs the political class keeps inventing, whether it's to feed people, educate people, provide shelter for people, on and on and on and on. The programs, if they don't construct fraud, they construct the framework for professional grifting.
And we also said, remember when you were
not just with Somalis, by the way.
No, you're right. But remember the boldness you talked about, and I think it was when Bill Glahn, or shortly after Bill Glahn was here in studio, that just because some of these people have been caught, that doesn't mean that this is going to prevent the next fraud from happening. Well, this is case in point. Saeed Farah had just been acquitted and said, to hell with that, now I'm going to go after the juror.
Yeah.
The boldness is what, to me, is so shocking, that they're just going to keep going after the same piece of pie, which is the taxpayer dime.
And don't forget, Joe, excuse me, to include all the new hires within the government to run these programs.
Absolutely. Now, is it time for me to back off Walls a hair? No, in this regard, I'm just as comfortable believing that he's so incompetent that that's considered backing off.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm just as prepared to believe he's so incompetent that he doesn't know about any of this. He doesn't have a way to put his hand on it because there's so much of it. Is that
no? You're on the wrong side of Hanlon's razor.
I'm on Team Kenny.
Okay.
You're on the wrong side.
Never mind, Walls. I'm not backing off. You should
This is
still
the problem
resign.
here. And the issue is, how do you open up the eyes of the voter, the people that voted for him, that are blindly following the Democratic Party?
And here's why Team Kenny is correct. If it was one case or two cases under his watch, okay, I'd probably give him the benefit of the doubt. This is a litany of how many different cases just within the last couple of years that all occurred under his watch. There's probably more out there that we have zero idea about involving corruption.
Here's why the eyes of the voters, whether it's here or Missouri or California, here's why the eyes of the voter need to be opened. If we continue down this path with an unmanageable government that grows at will, the less and less the citizen you become, until the day when they finally finish devouring us and there'll be nothing left. That's what's happening. There'll be nothing left. The people running the show, whether it's nationally or locally or statewide, they're not focused on the means and livelihood of the average citizen of their state. They're focused on the expansion of their regime. They're focused on the expansion of their fiefdoms, whatever the word is. And they will end up devouring everything. And there won't be anything left if the U.S. continues to go in this direction. Because we're just in Minnesota. We're just talking about a total so far, based on Bill Glahn's math, we're talking $453 million in fraud since 2019. That's what he can determine. Mm-hmm. We don't know about all of these other programs. They are ostensibly legal, but we have no idea if they've accomplished anything. We have no idea how they can be measured success, nor do we know if they are even being measured for success. Right. So we keep going down this road. If the voters want to take back their country, a country in which dams get fixed when they're supposed to.
Oh, you should read the reports
right.
that they've had in their files for years.
Why did you think I
dam.
said when dams get fixed when they're supposed to?
Yeah.
Oh. What do you want, Joe? A functioning dam or a starving kid?
You know what it reminds? Dam, because I don't know any starving children and I don't want there to be any.
Joe, it reminds me of when, like, and I realize this is an analogy that comes from movies, but when the mafia gets their hooks in a business and they just drain that business till it no longer exists.
Right.
That's what seems to be happening in Minnesota.
Speaking of starving children, didn't Wall say on Morning Joe that we all know kids learn better when they have full bellies?
Yes.
That's kind of a catchphrase he's been using. Well, with all the feeding that's going on, shouldn't we be number one in education in the nation? Minnesota just dropped to number 18. And none of this, they're excused from linking any of this. None of this makes any sense to us, and they don't care that it doesn't make any sense.
The state's website had that very quickly, and then very quickly deleted it after it was exposed. Like, that's not a good thing to be